War's always had a high price in money, in misery, and in lives, but we shouldn't fool ourselves. We've gone on fighting wars all down our history because we were willing to pay the price. Now the price is getting totally out of control, and still we don't know how to stop. Time was, countries went to war to get what they wanted or keep what they had, and their citizens went along willingly, even knowing that some of them might have to pay with their own lives. And in a lot of the world, it still works like that. The Syrian crews who died in this tank a couple of days ago, the Israeli soldiers who killed them, were both still willing to risk their lives for their countries. And we can't say they were wrong. It was their lives, their countries, their decision. Well, more or less their decision. But in more and more of the world, as time goes on, we simply cannot afford to pay the price of war at all anymore. There's nothing in the world that's worth blowing the whole world up for. So in this series, we're going to take a look at war, how it works, and why we can't go on fighting it much longer. This is my street in central London. The houses here are all around 140 years old. I've lived here for some time, but I expect they'll still be here when I'm gone, unless we all go together. The very first Zeppelin raid came right over this street in 1915, but it survived the First World War untouched. Early in the Second War, a bomb dropped just over there, knocked down the pub in the corner and a whole row of houses. Later on, some incendiaries fell on the school round the corner, and in 1944, a flying bomb destroyed the underground station 2 blocks away. But basically, the street survived the Second World War intact. It would not survive a third. In underground control rooms like this, in 3 different continents, men sit every hour of every day, waiting for orders to launch the missiles of World War III.
Okay, Oscar 1 in the launch report. We still don't have any launch indications to report.
At the turn of the key, these men can launch 150 missiles with 3 nuclear warheads each. They seem as cut off from the past as they are from the real world above ground their missiles are aimed at. But in fact, they're the result of the past, of all the wars we've fought, and all the attitudes we've clung to from that long past.
Freedom has a price, and I believe this, and I preach it. Freedom has one price. And history bears me out. There's one price that freedom will accept, and that's blood.
To ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil, is folly.
I would give all my abilities, my experience, and if necessary, my life, to protect my socialist motherland, to achieve the total destruction of the enemy.
And I can't think of anything more honorable for me personally than to be a soldier. And that's my job if my country asks me to go and fight.
The whole essence of being a soldier is not to slay, but to be slain. You offer yourself to be slain rather than set yourself up as a slayer.
I felt that all the boys that were killed, that they were helping. That it might be the war to end all wars, but what good has it done?
I was a bomber pilot a long time ago. I bombed Hamburg. 70,000 people died there when the air caught fire. 80,000 or so died at Dresden. And if you want to talk about numbers, 123,000 died at Iwo Jima. And they died at Lebanon, as you know, very recently. So the problem is war, not just nuclear war.
Ready on my mark? I'm ready. 3, 2, 1, mark.
How would you feel if you ever had to do it for real?
Well, we're trained so highly in our recurring training that we take every month in simulators like this, so that if we actually had to do it, it would be an almost automatic thing.
You wouldn't be thinking about it at the time?
There wouldn't be time for any reflection until after we turn the keys.
The last time we had a war scare, my kids asked me what would happen to us if there were a war, and I said something about how if it were a limited war, most of the nearby nuclear warheads would be going down on the air bases west of here. If we had enough warning, maybe we could sit it out. But my boys have been around a bit. They don't believe in fairy tales. Did I really think that a war would stay limited to military targets like that? No. Well, then, what would happen to us if they started hitting cities with nuclear weapons? And I had to say, forget it. No chance. City dwellers die. So do most other people. Now, this is plainly a ludicrous state of affairs. For 5,000 years, warfare has been an intrinsic part, maybe an indispensable part, of the style of living we call civilization. But over the past century, modern technology and organization have inflated it to the point where it threatens to destroy us all. 200 years ago, wars were fought on a very different scale. Hardly anybody was involved except soldiers, and they were professionals leading lives cut off from the civilian population. 18th century armies were always small, and the muskets they carried couldn't hit anything more than 100 yards away.
Déchirez la cartouche entre vos dents!
Their battles lasted a few hours on 1 or 2 days of the year, and though they were bloody affairs for the soldiers, scarcely anyone else got hurt. Even when two kingdoms were at war, their civilian subjects could go on doing business with each other and even travel in each other's countries. But this was the last time that war would be a strictly limited quarrel between rulers. At the end of the 1700s, the world was poised on the brink of a great change. We were about to start down the long road to total war. One dreadful day, most of 2 centuries ago, this was the worst place to be in the whole world. Imagine a jumbo jet full of people crashing in these fields every 3 minutes from breakfast till sundown. That's the scale of the disaster that happened here. We've grown almost accustomed to the mass slaughter of modern warfare by now, but back in 1812 it was still a terrible new thing in the world. When Napoleon led over 500,000 men and more than 1,000 cannon into Russia that June, it was far the biggest civilized army anybody had ever seen. By the time the French reached the fields around Borodino Church, they'd marched 1,800 miles from Paris. It was here, before Moscow, that the Russian army made its stand. At 5:30 on the morning of June 5th, the French cannon opened fire and the killing began.